On our wedding anniversary, my wife found out her first love had died. The same woman who had never let me touch or shed her Ice Queen persona. And for the first time ever, she sat on top of me in a lacy nightgown. "Honey," she whispered, "what do you want to do tonight?" At the height of our passion, she looked at me and said quietly, "Let's not meet in the next life." The next day, my wife leaped from the rooftop, taking her own life for him. It was only when I was packing up her belongings that I realized there had never been any room for me in her heart. Reborn 10 years in the past, she broke up with me without a moment's hesitation and went straight to her first love. I watched her go and then started putting my own life in order. After that, we went our separate ways and never spoke again. 10 years later, we met again at a charity gala in New York City. She had become a socialite, always appearing as a couple with a man named Lucas. When she saw me at the gala looking for someone, she couldn't resist lecturing me. "Everyone has their own destiny," she said. "Even if you waited 10 years for me, I would never come back." I paid her no mind, instead turning to the dessert table and catching my daughter sneaking a mousse cake. Tears instantly welled in her eyes as she grabbed my hand tightly. "That's not your daughter, is it? Didn't we say we would grow old together?" I never dreamed I would see Mary again in this lifetime. At the charity gala in New York City, she was holding Lucas's hand, laughing and chatting with ease. Her manner was elegant and poised, a far cry from the woman who used to keep everyone at a distance. Everyone around her was deferential, their faces wreathed in smiles. "Ms. Anderson, you're so young and accomplished. To make such a name for yourself in New York City so quickly, we'll all be looking to you for support in the future. And this must be your husband," someone else chimed in. "You two are a match made in heaven." Lucas smiled, dotingly tucking a stray strand of hair behind Mary's ear. "We're planning our wedding for some time soon," he said softly. "We'd love for you all to be there to celebrate with us." Amid the chorus of congratulations, someone asked an ill-timed question. "You two have been together for a decade. Why wait until now to get married?" I was curious myself. In my past life, Mary had been willing to die for Lucas. The very first day I was reborn, she came to me to break up. I had assumed she would marry him right after college, but I was surprised to learn they still hadn't even gotten a marriage license. Hearing the question, Mary's expression faltered for a fraction of a second before she recovered. "Your 20s are for building a career," she said smoothly. "I just wanted to be able to give Lucas the best life possible." She looked at Lucas, her eyes sparkling with an adoration so intense it was like a galaxy. In our past life, when we were together, I had proposed to her several times. It was only after her family gave her an ultimatum that Mary reluctantly agreed to marry me. That's how love is, I suppose. When you love someone, you make endless allowances for them. I was about to leave when I caught a flash of pink out of the corner of my eye. I instinctively followed it. Then came a loud crash. Red wine spread across the floor like a stain. A waiter glared at me with pure indignation. "Where did you come from? Watch where you're going." His voice boomed, and suddenly, all eyes in the vicinity were on me. Mary's gaze met mine, and her face registered surprise. "Robert, what are you doing here?" she asked. I apologized to the waiter, then explained simply, "I'm looking for someone." A guest looked me up and down, then turned to Mary. "You know this man, Ms. Anderson?" The hand Mary was using to swirl her wine froze, and a complicated expression flickered in her eyes. "An ex-boyfriend," she said. Lucas took her hand and added with an air of casual indifference, "We were young. Besides, a past mistake only serves to prove you found the real thing." Mary regained her elegant composure, nodding at Lucas before turning to the waiter. "Put the damages on my tab," she said dismissively. "Just have him leave." She then turned back to her conversation with the others. After that initial moment of recognition, she didn't spare me another glance, her demeanor as icy as it had been in our past life. It was as if she was making a point of drawing a clear line between us for Lucas's benefit. The waiter sized me up, his eyes lingering on my old pajamas with a look of disgust as he started pulling me toward the exit. "Ms. Anderson helped you out this time," he sneered. "Don't expect everyone to be so generous. This isn't the place for you. Get out." I pulled my arm from his grasp and said calmly, "I told you, I'm looking for someone. I'll leave as soon as I find them." The waiter rolled his eyes. "I've seen plenty of social climbers like you," he said with contempt. "You have no business being at a gala of this caliber. Are you going to leave, or do I have to call security?" "Wait," Mary's voice cut in from behind him. She set down her wine glass and sighed, pressing a hand to her forehead. "He's here for me. she said. Let me have a word with him. Lucas, standing beside her, gently placed a possessive arm around her waist from behind. Robert, a proper ex should act as if they're dead, Mary said, her expression strained. Especially since I'm engaged to Lucas now. Everyone has their own destiny. Even if you waited 10 years for me, I would never come back. She continued. I was with you out of youthful ignorance. Now I found my soulmate, and I hope you can move on and live your own life too. Lucas stepped forward, looking me over with a mocking glint in his eyes. I get it, he said. You see that Mary is successful and accomplished now, so you come looking for her. We've seen plenty of people like you with ulterior motives. Perhaps the sight of my old pajamas gave him a sense of superiority because he looked down at me and said, You used to go to the same college as Mary. How did you fall on such hard times? If I were you, I'd be too ashamed to show my face. Mary's brow furrowed in annoyance as she pulled out her phone. If our breakup caused you some kind of long-term trouble, she said impatiently, I can pay you some compensation to settle things. Is $1 million enough? She stared at her phone screen, a red exclamation mark next to my name, her expression surprised. You actually deleted me from your contacts? I was a little baffled by her strong reaction. Isn't it normal to delete an ex after a breakup? Besides, my wife has a serious jealous streak and holds a grudge. If she knew I still had an ex's contact info, I wouldn't hear the end of it for a long time. Weren't you the one who said it? I reminded her. A proper ex should be as good as dead. Mary's face froze, and she stared at me, speechless. I added calmly, and I don't need the money. It's not necessary. Her attempts to control the situation had failed, and her expression soured. Do you think I don't know you? She said coldly. If you didn't look so pathetic right now, I wouldn't have even given you a second glance. Lucas quickly rushed to comfort her. Mary, you're just too kind, he soothed. He's an able-bodied man living in squalor. It's his own fault, and there's no reason for you to worry about him. His tone was dripping with sarcasm, as if he'd forgotten that he was in a much worse position than me back in the day. In my past life, Mary's family had disapproved of them largely because he was a delinquent who had dropped out of trade school. I first met Mary in college right after she had bailed Lucas out of jail, and her family was forcing them to break up. She was completely despondent, and I was the one who pulled her out of that dark and hopeless place. She loved traditional painting, so I used what little savings I had to buy her the finest brushes, ink, paper, and inkstones. No matter the season, I would be there to grind the ink for her just to see her smile. But who would have guessed that she was the one who asked me out first? I knew about her history with Lucas. I had seen her staring into space while looking at the few photos she had of them together. So when Mary told me her feelings, I asked her one very serious question. Are you really over Lucas? She gently took my hand, her gaze steady. That's in the past, she said. Now I realize who truly treats me well. From now on, you're the only one in my heart. We were together for 7 years. Even her best friend was surprised. She was so crazy about Lucas, she told me once. I honestly thought you were just a rebound. But what no one knew was that Mary had turned down my marriage proposals countless times. Robert, you know I've always been hesitant about marriage, she would say. Can't we just stay like this forever? She only agreed to get married after her parents started pressuring her. But even after the wedding, we always slept in separate rooms. We had no marital life to speak of. We barely even touched. It wasn't until she heard that Lucas had died that she finally shed her Ice Queen persona. For the first time ever, she came to me in a lacy nightgown and sat on my lap. I'm ready now, she said. When it was over, she watched me as I slept and whispered quietly, let's not meet in the next life. The next day, my wife leaped from the rooftop, taking her own life for him, leaving only a suicide note behind. In it, she poured out all her love for Lucas, but there was not a single word of explanation for me. At the end of the letter, written with a tragic flourish, she had scrawled, Lucas, I couldn't be your bride in this life. If there's a next one, I won't let you go. Any love I had for her died with that final line. So, when I was reborn and she asked to break up, I didn't object. I knew that nothing I could do would ever be enough. As I watched her walk away, I deleted every trace of Mary from my life, assuming we'd never see each other again. I never expected we would run into each other here. I tried to leave, but Lucas, arrogant as ever, seemed determined to humiliate me in front of everyone. You must have gone to a lot of trouble to track Mary down. Huh, he sneered. You certainly don't look like you have a real job. How about I do you a favor? I can get you a job as a waiter here. If you're good at serving people, you could pull in 5 figures a month at least. Someone nearby, trying to curry favor with Mary, chimed in with a smirk. This is the heart of New York City's business district. A job here is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for most people. You should be thanking Mr. Miller. The crowd closed in, mocking me. I was trapped and felt a wave of frustration. Thanks, I said, but I already have a job. I'm a painter, traditional style. The moment I said it, Mary's expression became complicated, and her lips trembled slightly. Then her tone turned cold again. How much can you possibly make from painting? If you want to chase a dream, you need to be able to afford bread first. For old time's sake, I can find you a respectable job. I could tell from her reaction that she had misunderstood. I didn't get into painting because I was still hung up on her, especially not after reading that gut-wrenching suicide note in my past life. The truth was, when I was reborn, I discovered all my savings had already been spent on high-end painting supplies. Reselling them would have taken too long, so I had no choice but to use them myself. And unintentionally, I actually fell in love with painting. In this life, I didn't want to live to please anyone else. I just wanted to be myself. So I politely declined Mary's offer again. I appreciate the offer, I said, but my hobby provides me with a sufficient income. When she heard me refuse her again, a flash of anger crossed Mary's face. You're ungrateful. I'm offering you an opportunity. Don't come crying to me later when you need help. I didn't tell her that with the experience of 2 lifetimes and my complete devotion to my art, my work was now sought after by the country's top galleries and was even gaining significant acclaim overseas. My paintings now sold for a premium by the square inch, and my income was likely a bit higher than Mary's. There was no point in saying more. She wouldn't have believed me anyway. After all, I was standing there in old pajamas, unshaven, looking like a total wreck. But that was all my daughter's fault. She had insisted on going for a walk, and in the minute it took me to find my shoes, she had already run out of the building. I had chased after her without even changing my clothes. Just as I was about to scan the area for her, the waiter's eyes fixed on me, as if he'd just discovered something. Are those Balenciaga pajamas? He demanded. Where did you steal them? I couldn't help but hold my hands out in exasperation. Is it so impossible that I bought them myself? Lucas smirked, his face a mask of contempt. You? Afford them? He scoffed. Have you ever seen anyone from high society walk out of the house in their pajamas? He waved a hand in front of his face as if to clear away a bad smell. You stink. You probably pulled them out of a dumpster and put them on without even washing them, didn't you? Mary rubbed her temples, looking at me with exhaustion. Do you really have to be so stubborn at a time like this? They were being completely unreasonable. I turned to the waiter and said, if you really think I stole something, then call the police. I knew Lucas was just trying to put me down to make himself look superior. And just as I expected, the moment I mentioned the police, his demeanor changed. He muttered under his breath. I would have already called them if I wasn't worried about disturbing the important guest who's coming tonight. At this, Mary's eyes lit up. You mean the eldest daughter of the Harrison family, right? She said eagerly. I heard she's visiting New York with her family and staying in the suite right above this ballroom. Lucas nodded, a hopeful glint in his eye. If our company could just get a connection to the Harrisons for our current project, it would be incredible. The mention of the Harrison heiress sent a murmur through the crowd, and a flurry of excited discussion broke out. Isn't she the reason everyone's here tonight? This hotel is one of her family's assets, after all. I heard she got married and had a kid in her 20s. I wonder which lucky guy managed to land her. As the crowd buzzed with speculation, the hotel manager came rushing over, a group of staff trailing anxiously behind him. Has anyone seen a little girl, about 7 years old, around this tall? The manager asked, beads of sweat on his forehead as his eyes darted around the room. Seeing the commotion being made over a little girl, someone immediately put 2 and 2 together. Is it the Harrison's daughter? I heard she just turned 7 this year. Instantly, the guests at the gala sprang into action, searching everywhere. This was a golden opportunity to get in the Harrison family's good graces. Mary and Lucas looked just as eager as everyone else, and for a moment, I was forgotten. I scanned the ballroom and then walked directly toward the dessert table. And there she was, my daughter, her hands covered in frosting. I put on a stern face. Come here, I said. She jumped, grabbing a table leg with one hand, while stuffing more cake in her mouth with the other. No, she declared. I was about to pull her away when Lucas came running up, out of breath, and stepped between me and my daughter. Robert, what do you think you're doing? Even if you're desperate to get in with the Harrisons, you can't just grab their child. Mary rushed over at the sound of his voice, her eyes filled with disappointment as she looked at me. Robert, you've changed, she said. I never thought you'd stoop this low just to chase after fame and fortune. The waiter, seeing the hotel manager, pointed at me and yelled, "That's him. He crashed the gala for no reason, and he stole another guest's clothes." The manager turned to the security guards with a grim expression. "Grab him and take him straight to the police station. If the little girl is frightened in any way, you're all fired." Lucas shot me a triumphant look before bending down to face the little Harrison princess, plastering a bright smile on his face. "Come on, come to Uncle," he cooed. "I'll help you find your family, okay?" My daughter didn't even glance at him. In front of everyone, she walked right up to me, took my hand, and said in a tiny, pitiful voice, "Daddy, I'm sorry." I gently pinched her chubby cheek. "You already have cavities," I said sternly. "Why are you still eating so many sweets?" Seeing the look on my daughter's face, Lucas immediately stepped in. "The Harrison's daughter can eat whatever she wants. Who are you to tell her no?" I replied calmly. "I'm her father. If I don't discipline her, who will?" It was only then that Lucas seemed to process what my daughter had just called me. He stood there, dumbfounded, looking back and forth between me and my daughter. I let go of her hand, and she immediately threw her arms open wide. "I only had one piece of cake, I promise." I asked my tooth fairy friend, and she said, "It won't give me cavities, Daddy," she declared. "Daddy, hold me." She smeared frosting all over my pants. I picked her up, feigning annoyance. "Mommy's going to scold you when she sees this mess. And I'm not saving you this time." My daughter has had a sweet tooth since she was a toddler, which has led to a lot of cavities. Whenever a tooth started to hurt, she would turn on the charm, and we'd be both heartbroken for her and helpless to resist. We were on vacation, and Sophia was on a work call. I thought I was watching our daughter closely, but she managed to sneak off and find the dessert table while I was putting on my shoes. Seeing my serious expression, she rubbed even more frosting on me and put on her most pitiful face. "Daddy, please don't tell Mommy, okay?" The manager was now trembling, a sycophantic smile plastered on his face. You're Ms. Harrison's husband?" I gave a slight nod. Cold sweat beaded on his forehead as he forced an obsequious smile. "It was our mistake, sir. We didn't recognize you. My sincerest apologies. Perhaps you'd like to take your daughter upstairs to rest." The frosting all over me was starting to get on my nerves, so I was about to follow the manager out when a hand grabbed my arm. I turned around. It was Mary. She stared at me, her expression a mixture of confusion and disbelief. You're married?" she stammered. "With a child this old?" I pulled my arm free and nodded. "We got married right after graduation. I had met my wife, Sophia, at an art exhibition abroad. I was showing a piece in the exhibition, and Sophia had stopped in front of it. "Hi," I said, walking up to her. "I'm the artist. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it." We ended up at a coffee shop, talking for hours about everything imaginable. We soon discovered we had much more in common than just a love for painting. By the time we flew back to the States, we were already a couple. To my surprise, her family never once made me feel inadequate because of my humble origins. One day, Sophia told me with the utmost sincerity, "I love you for more than just your talent. I love you for your character, for your soul." After living 2 lives, and with my history with Mary, I thought I would never be able to love anyone again. But Sophia showed me that real love is a mutual journey. My daughter, now tired, mumbled in my arms, "Daddy, I want Mommy." But Mary was still standing in front of me, blocking my way. "That's not really your daughter, is it?" she asked desperately. "Didn't you say you would only ever grow old with me?" A cool female voice cut in from behind me. "You say things like that? Funny, you've never said them to me." The voice was followed by a wave of greetings from the crowd. "Ms. Harrison. Good evening, Ms. Harrison. Welcome, boss." I turned to see Sophia standing there. She took our daughter from my arms and then cast a cool glance at Mary. "Your ex-girlfriend?" she asked. Fearing her jealous streak and long memory, I rushed to explain. "It was from college. We were together for less than 2 months and haven't spoken in a decade." The words seemed to drain the color from Mary's face. I thought for a second, then added for good measure, "And I definitely never said that." Mary stared at me in shock. She understood what I meant. I had said those words in a past life. In this new life, she had made her choice, so those promises were null and void. She looked heartbroken. "But you love me so much," she pleaded. "How could you just turn around and be with someone else?" Lucas's face was ashen as he stared at Mary. I sighed and gestured between them. "Weren't you the one who broke up with me? You're about to get married yourself. What's the point of all this now?" Mary's face was a mess of conflicting emotions. She opened her mouth to speak, but Lucas gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "Mary," he said, "he's married with a child now. He's not part of your world anymore. Our life is just beginning." Before he could finish his sentence, Mary shoved him away. Lucas stumbled back, a look of shock on his face, which quickly turned beet red under the stares of the crowd. He shot me a look filled with pure hatred. In all their years together, Mary had never spoken a harsh word to him, let alone pushed him. Sophia watched the two of them with an amused expression and chuckled. "So, it's the ex-girlfriend making a pass at my husband. Your fiancé must be a very patient man. Trying to get the old one back before you've even broken up with the new one? Your personal life seems rather messy." The pointed remark left Mary flustered and humiliated, and she scrambled to explain. "It's not like that. I clear my throat, cutting her off. "Mary, we all have to move forward. There's no point in dwelling on the past. I have a wonderful family now, and you've found your true love. I wish you all the best." My well wishes seemed to have the opposite effect on her. Tears suddenly streamed down Mary's face. She looked at me in disbelief, her voice laced with sorrow. "Robert, we were together for so long. You used to look at me like I was your whole world. How could you just forget?" The smile on Sophia's face deepened. "Is 2 months really such a long time?" she asked, her voice full of curiosity. "Longer than all the years we've been married?" I knew Mary was still caught up in our past life, the 10 years we had together. But no one would believe that story, even if I told it. I shook my head, my expression calm. "I haven't forgotten," I said. "It's just that people have their own paths. I moved on. We're all adults, and we have to live with the choices we make." The very words she had once said to me now hit her square in the face. Before I had even finished speaking, Mary sank to the floor, sobbing. I took my daughter back, intending to take her upstairs for a change of clothes, when I heard Sophia speak in a slow, deliberate tone. "Now, who was it that called my husband a thief and wanted to send him to the police?" The waiter's face went white, and he stammered an apology to me. "I'm so sorry, sir. I was blind. I sincerely apologize." He was bowing and trembling, all of his earlier arrogance gone. After dealing with the waiter, Sophia's gaze fell on Lucas. "I hear you were offering my husband a job as a waiter in his own hotel," she said. "On his behalf, thank you for the kind offer." Her eyes were filled with disdain as she added coolly, "My husband's annual income from his art is in 8 figures. If you can't match that salary, I think we'll have to pass." Lucas looked mortified. He hunched his shoulders and forced a bitter smile, backing away. "I was just joking," he mumbled. "Please don't take it seriously." The people who had been mocking me moments before to get on Mary's good side now quickly looked down, avoiding Sophia's gaze, terrified of attracting the Harrison family's negative attention. Having settled the matter, Sophia's intimidating aura vanished, and she turned to me with a radiant smile. I knew she had done it all for me. I set our daughter down and gently kissed Sophia's forehead. "Thank you, my love," I said. "I'm not angry anymore." Mary trailed behind us, looking like she wanted to say something more, but a single glance from Sophia froze her in her tracks. Back in her suite, I got her daughter cleaned up while Sophia ordered some custom-made clothes for me. She was still fuming. "They're all such snobs," she said angrily. "I'll let my guard down for 1 second, and they dare to treat you like that. Don't you worry, honey. From now on, you're only wearing the most expensive clothes. That'll stop these judgmental people from looking down their noses at you." I thought that was a bit much and tried to curb her impulse spending. "I'm usually out on painting trips," I reminded her. "Suits and formal wear aren't practical. Something sturdy and easy to clean is all I need." Sophia paused, looking thoughtful. "All right then," she said. "How about a new car instead? Would you prefer a Maybach or a Ferrari?" I just shook my head and smiled at her. It was clear that the day's events had really gotten to her. Over the years, Sophia and I have had a wonderful life together. Some people assumed that because of the difference in our backgrounds, I would become a stay-at-home husband after we married, and that my life would revolve around hers. After all, a gap in social standing can often lead to an imbalance of power in a marriage. But in reality, Sophia has always respected my choices and been my biggest supporter. When we weren't busy, she would even help me grind my ink, adding a touch of grace to my studio. We were no different from any other happy family. Especially after seeing Mary today, I felt more certain than ever about the choices I'd made. My life returned to its peaceful rhythm after that, so I was surprised to run into Mary again while I was out on a painting trip. She was dressed simply, with no makeup on, looking almost exactly as she had in college, only without the icy demeanor. The moment she saw me, she rushed over. "Robert, I knew you'd come here, she said, her eyes holding a warmth I had never seen in our past life. I know you still love me. You haven't forgotten, have you? I instinctively took a step back. Looking around, I realized I was at the mountain where I often went to paint. I had just been driving aimlessly today and ended up here out of habit. I never imagined Mary would be waiting for me. The sun was strong, and her face was already flushed. I looked at her with a sense of helplessness, wondering why she was still so fixated on the past. Mary, we haven't seen each other in 10 years, and you've been doing just fine, haven't you? I asked. You keep dwelling on the past, asking me again and again if I still have feelings for you. I've told you I've moved on. What more do you want? Do you want me to say I still love you, abandon my wife and child, and then you'll break up with Lucas so we can start over? The words were barely out of my mouth when Mary lunged forward to grab my hand, her voice trembling with excitement. Is that really what you want? We could be together again. I was floored. I had assumed she was just upset that I was no longer her devoted follower in this life, that she missed the feeling of being adored. Who would have thought that, after everything with Lucas, she would still want to get back together with me? What are you thinking? I asked. In our last life, you died for him. In this one, you finally got to be with him. And now you're saying you want to reconcile with me? A pained expression crossed Mary's face, and her voice was full of remorse. I'm the one who wronged you, she said. Robert, I regret everything. The first thing I did in this life was find Lucas, but when we were finally together, I realized I didn't love him as much as I thought. She continued. He's proposed so many times, but I've never said yes. I still remember our wedding anniversary from our past life. Speaking of our past life, my voice was calm and detached. If I recall correctly, your suicide note said you only ever wanted to be Lucas's bride. There wasn't a single word in there for me. Mary quickly cut in. Robert, I regret it. I truly regret being with Lucas. If I could go back, I would never have broken up with you. We can start over, can't we? This time, I promise I'll truly love you. Her words felt like a mockery of my devotion in our past life. Unfortunately, life doesn't give you that many do-overs. Getting a second chance at life is a gift. Isn't it better to live in the present? I looked her straight in the eye, my tone serious. You may have regrets, but I don't. I don't regret marrying Sophia, and I don't regret the life I have now. But Mary was persistent. Why? She demanded. We were together for 10 years too. What does Sophia have that I don't, that makes you choose her? I looked at her, still so lost in her own world, and sighed. Mary, do you know what my hobbies are? What style of clothes I like to wear? What are my little nervous habits? What's my favorite food? With every question, the light in Mary's eyes faded a little more. A smile touched my lips as I thought of Sophia. In far less than 10 years, Sophia has learned all of those things. You say you love me, but what is it you love? Those 10 years were a decade of my one-sided devotion. Maybe you never loved me. Maybe you just got used to the feeling of being loved. I held up the sketch on my easel, showing her a piece of my life. I'm sorry, I said, but I don't want to live a life where I lose myself again. I'm happy with who I am now. Sophia has a pure heart, one that can hold both my body and my soul. I hope you can find your own way. After that day, I didn't hear anything about Mary for a long time. Sophia, true to her nature, brought it up several times, her jealous streak and long memory on full display. She's always been like that. I told her everything as soon as I got home from that painting trip, and, after a good deal of reassuring, we finally moved past it. A few months later, I heard that Mary's company had gone bankrupt. The reason was Lucas. He had been secretly gambling online behind her back. He'd always been a delinquent, a regular at the local police station, and having money just made him more reckless. Mary was incredibly lenient with him, even giving him a position at her company and eventually entrusting him with all its finances. It was like letting a wolf guard the hen house. People who were jealous of Mary's rapid success had been watching Lucas for a while. They set him up with some new friends who, after a few drinks, introduced him to online gambling. It didn't take long for him to lose all his cash. Terrified of Mary finding out, he started embezzling company funds, hoping to win it all back. But gamblers rarely win. He ended up losing Mary's entire fortune. She only found out when employees told her during a site visit that they hadn't been paid in months. By then, it was too late. Her company was drowning in debt. And since she had finally married Lucas, his debts were now legally her own. Lucas was unskilled and had a violent temper, which only made things harder for Mary. I heard people discussing it at a banquet I attended with Sophia, and everyone seemed to feel a sense of pity for her. Mary was one of the brightest of her generation, one person said. I can't believe she had such poor judgment, marrying a good-for-nothing gambler. Another added, I heard she's working multiple jobs to pay off the debt, and he beats her when she gets home. It just goes to show you. A third person concluded, wealth you don't deserve will always find a way to disappear. Hearing this, even Sophia frowned. Even though they were rivals, they were still both women. Maybe we should find a lawyer to help Mary get a divorce, she suggested, looking at me. What do you think? I nodded, sighing internally. Even with a second chance at life, Mary's had become a complete mess. I could only imagine how her regret must be growing with each passing day. Later, after Mary was hospitalized again due to his abuse, the lawyer finally won the divorce case. Lucas was sent to prison for assault, and because the debt was ruled to be his fault, Mary was only responsible for a small portion of it. After she was discharged from the hospital, Mary showed up at our house with a gift, specifically asking to see me. Sophia looked at me, her voice dripping with jealousy. Wasn't I the one who helped her? She said. Why is she asking for you by name? That's the last time I do a good deed. As a result, Sophia didn't give Mary a single pleasant look from the moment she walked in the door. We took care of the divorce case for you, Sophia said coolly. The rest of the debt is on you to repay. She then added, we're planning our own wedding ceremony soon. You're welcome to come if you'd like. Sophia, thank you, Mary said quietly. I was wrong before. I'll be sure to keep my distance from your husband from now on. All that talk about getting back together was just an impulsive moment. I won't bring it up again. She closed her eyes, fighting back tears. I know you're the one he loves now. I was sipping my coffee, only half listening when my eyes widened. After everything that had happened, it seemed she had finally seen things clearly. I'm glad you've come to terms with it, I said. Life goes on. We still have tomorrow. Let's both do our best. Mary looked at me. She was the one who had single-handedly severed our connection, and now I had a happy, fulfilling life while hers was in shambles. She managed a smile that looked more painful than crying. The movement pulled at a still-healing bruise near her eye, and a few tears escaped. I've done a lot of thinking, she said. This time, it's your turn to be happy. With that, she turned and walked away. As she walked into the sunlight, her silhouette seemed to flicker in and out of the light, as if to say, there's no need to follow. Sophia shot me an irritated look. Aren't you going to walk her out? She asked. I just shrugged and stretched out lazily on the sofa. Our daughter will be home from school soon. Did you remember to hide all the candy and cake? What do you feel like for lunch? Sophia came over and gently wrapped her arm around my shoulders. Together, we listened quietly to the music playing from the record player. Who was it that came from mountains and seas, only to be bound by day and night, the kitchen and love?